Hi everyone! So today I am following up on one of my previous tutorials where I created some easel cards, and they were inverted easel cards for one of the fancy fold craft challenges. And they were these ones in here that you can see on my screen now. They were diamond shaped inverted easel cards. At the end of that video, I shared different options, and this is a screenshot from the end of that tutorial. So you can see how that one has a little overhang on either side of the topper, but unfortunately that card got damaged. It fell down behind my box, and it is this one in here. Obviously, I'll not be using this one today, we will be creating. Because someone, a lady that watches my videos, asked in the comment sections if I could show how I made the one that has that roof overhanging over the topper, which is such an easy adjustment really, because now this is a square shape, not a rectangle one, but this one does not have the roof overhanging because the front panel is exactly the same size as the mechanism. But if I bring the front panel down a size, then the mechanism will have that overhanging roof kind of an illusion in there. And this is what we are going to create today. If you don't like measuring out the way I will be measuring out the rectangle shaped diamonds, I would love you to go over to the video that I will link to in the description box below, because in that one I gave lots of tips and tricks, multiple ways how you can bypass measuring out with a ruler, a pencil, and cutting away corners like I will be doing now. I already created one card in here that I'm showing you. It's the cutest, whimsical kind of a gingerbread theme card. It's so stunning. I really love this. Now, it keeps popping out just because it is in my hands and kind of lying back, if that makes any sense. It's not standing on my table as it should be, but it stands up beautifully. I'll show you in a wee second. So this is a cute little gingerbread theme one, and there's lots of room to write your message inside or on the back or even on the bottom of the card. For the card today, I won't be using the gingerbread man, but I will walk you through what I use just in case you're interested in this one. Now, it was one of last year's collections from Chloe's Creative Cards, so I'm not sure if it's still available, but I know a lot of you have bought this. So this is the Gingerbread People Stamp and Die set. I stamped with black ink, heat embossed with clear embossing powder, and colored in with my alcohol markers. I used coral reef glitter on the dress, on the hat, on the bow. I didn't want to go too dark red on this one. I wanted to keep it to that pinkish theme, and I thought this worked beautifully. For the frosting part on the gingerbread man, instead of pure white, I used the Diamante Sparkle, which is such a gorgeous glitter. It really adds lots of diamond kind of sparkle. For the tree, I used another stamp set, again from last year's collection, and it is the Snowy Tree Stamp and Die set. There's two different trees and then lots of little accessories to them. I used a smaller tree, again stamped and heat embossed with black and clear embossing powder. And then I wanted to add some snowy glitter to it. And the glitter that I picked out was Snowfall. It's such a gorgeous one in the pot, and it is a lovely glitter. And it went on real nice and white, snowy looking on the tree, but once it dried back, it did not dry white, so it dried back completely clear. So I had like a green sparkly tree left in the background, so I brought in my fluffy stuff and I went over it. So you can still see the sparkle from the glitter to the fluffy stuff. Once I heat set it, it goes to that puffy texture, and I absolutely love it. The little embellishments, the snowflakes, the buttons, the gingerbread eyes, and the candy in a girl's hand, and all the little embellishments all around them are from this little bag of all different candy themed embellishments, which I got years ago, and I want to say from AliExpress. I really am not sure. I bought it years ago. I bought a few bags. I made shaker cards with these before, and I just find them in my drawer. I'd completely forgotten about them, but they worked absolutely beautifully. Now on this card, I also used a piece of vellum. So the background paper was a bit too strong with the gingerbread man on the front, so I just added a piece of vellum in there as well, which I'll not be using today, but that's another option. If you want to mute down your background a bit to add some more embellishments, you can cover it up with a bit of vellum, and that works a treat. For today's card, I'm going to start with an 8 by 6 inches piece of card. If you prefer to go smaller, just go back to my previous video. The measurements are really easily adjusted, and in that one, I started working with a 5 by 7 inch. So all I'm doing, I'm finding the halfway on the cardstock. So on the 4-inch mark at the 8-inch side and a 3-inch mark on the 6-inch side, and I'm just adding a little dot. Now you can join these up with a pencil line with your ruler if you wish, cut away with your scissors. I'm just using my guillotine in here. They are very easily, nicely lined up, just lining up my dots with the cutting blade, and I'm cutting them down to a diamond shape. Now, I will need 2 pieces of these. I already prepared one. Now, of course, if you have nesting dies diamond shapes, that would make it easier for you. I don't have those, and I don't mind measuring them out like this. As I said, there's a lot of ways that you could bypass these steps. Now, I have another piece of card here, a pink one, measuring 7 3/4 by 5 3/4. And halfway I marked on the longer side at 3 7/8 of an inch, and on the shorter side at 2 7/8 of an inch. And by the way, all these measurements will be listed in the description box below. I realize there's quite a few of these for this card, so you don't feel like you have to write this down. I will have them listed below. So now I need 2 pieces of these, and one of these I'm going to cut down halfway. So from corner to corner on the shorter side, I just snip in half. I'll not need one of these triangles. I will only need one of those, and I will further cut away a piece in a minute. I will explain why, and it will make more sense as we are doing. For the next piece of card, I'm taking a 5 by 7 inch of a card, marking my halfway at 3.5 inches on the longer side and at 2.5 inches on the shorter side. Then cutting away exactly the same way as we've done before. Then I'm taking a piece of red card measuring 6 3/4 by 4 3/4, and the halfway marks on this one are at 3 3/8 of an inch and 2 3/8 of an inch. And finally, I'm taking 2 pieces of pattern papers, and these are both from the Candy Cane Lane paper pad, again from last year's collection from Chloe's Creative Cards. And this is the same papers I used on the card that I already showed you with the gingerbread man. The larger one measures 7.5 by 5.5 inches, and the halfway marks for this one are 3 3/4 by 2 3/4. For the smaller one that measures 6.5 by 4.5, the halfway marks for that one are at 3 1/4 by 2 1/4 of an inch. Again, these measurements will be listed below for you. I know when we are working with so many measurements, it can get a bit overwhelming with all the numbers, but I will add an easy to follow description in the box below. So with these 2 pattern papers, I like to add some sparkle to the edges. Obviously, this is optional. I love my sparkles, so I am using the chisel tip glue pen from Chloe's Creative Cards. I'm dragging it along the 4 sides and dipping it into my crystalline glitter, which adds lovely sparkle to the colors. It doesn't cover up the color, it just adds some lovely sparkle to it. I love doing this on a lot of cards. So now we are starting to assemble the card base. I'm taking one of the largest of the white diamonds and the pink one. I'm rubbing away all the little dots that I added. And I'm going to use my Collal Glue to layer these on top of each other because it will leave it nice and sturdy for me. And I am going to layer them up just like so for the base, and done that off camera in here. For the next diamond, the same size, the largest white one, I have to do some score lines on. So I'm going to bring in my scoring board and making sure that on the shorter side, the 2 corners are lined up in the same groove of my scoring board. So I'm now you can put a black line on the scoring board in one of the lines if you wish, but I don't feel like need to. I'm just lining them both up into the same groove, making a score line, and then I'm coming in 1 inch from one end, and I am adding a score line in there as well. In around the 1 inch mark is okay, it doesn't have to be exact. Now I'm going to fold and burnish both of those score lines the same direction. So they're both going to be mountain folds for this fold of a card. If it was just a simple easel card, then one of these would need to go in the other direction. Because I'm doing an inverted easel card, this is the way I have to fold them. Now I am just covering up that 1-inch section in some really strong liquid glue, lining up the diamond to the part closest to me. This way I know when I lie it back flat, it will be lined up perfectly on top of that, or on the top of the other diamond, yeah. So making sure the glue dries nice and strong. And now it is time to work on the part, the topper part that we will decorate. If I went with the same size topper of these largest diamonds, I would cover up the whole section in there and I would not have this roof overhanging. Because we are going to work with a smaller piece in here, that's why we will be left with that little roof overhanging in there. I love calling it roof now. So this is the triangles. Do you remember we cut this into 2 pieces of triangles? Now I'm going to just use one of these, and I like to have that small border on all the 3 sides. If I just glue it on as it is, it will cover up the whole triangle on the bottom part of it, so not have that border. I do like to have that little border. This is optional, it's the way you prefer to do yours. I like to cut a little bit away, so I'm just gonna bring in my trimmer. I'm just eyeballing it. I know from the previous card that I need to cut away about 1/8 of an inch. That's all that needs to be cut away to create that lovely even border in there. I think it just finishes it off nicer. So again, using my Collal Glue for this one, and I'm just going to glue it on top. And this is the base and the mechanism ready. Now I'm going to glue the red one on top of the smaller white diamond, and this is what I will glue onto the mechanism. I know that I can only add glue onto the top part of the triangle, so I'm trying not to go below the middle line in there. I'm trying to center it real nice, and then I'm going to use some foam pads for that pattern paper in there. I do like to add some dimension to my cards, but this is optional. You can just glue this down flat using your liquid glue, and it would look just as beautiful. So I'm making sure that it's nicely centered. And now it is time to show you what I used for my sentiment. So it is the 100th Merry Christmas stamp and die set, and this is from this year's collection from Chloe's Creative Cards. And you can see how I layered lots of layers of that up. I didn't add foam pads to create that dimension for my easel to tuck behind. I cut out several layers. I'll show you now. So on the previous card, I stamped and heat embossed with white embossing powder on red cardstock. Today I'm going to use white cardstock and I'm going to stamp with red. So I've die cut from the middle of that square piece of card, the outline die, and I'm going to show you how I center my stamps perfectly every single time onto outline dies like this. So I keep that negative, that square piece of cardstock. I'm not throwing that away. I will be using that for my stamping. So I bring in my stamping platform using my magnets. I keep that in place. Now you can use sticky grid mats. Some people use sticky grid mats in their stamping platform. I don't have any. This works perfectly for me. So the die cut, because we die cut that out of, obviously fits in perfectly in that section in the middle, and so does my stamp. So once I have it properly layered, I'm putting my die cut back in there, and I am going to use my Distress Oxide ink, Lumberjack Plaid. Now, because I'm using Distress Oxide ink, that's another reason why it is a very good idea to use my stamping platform. When stamping with Distress Oxide inks, I do find that I do need to stamp more than once. So once I open it, I can see that there are parts that are not just as dark as I would like them to be, so I come back again and stamp it again. And this time it turns out perfect. Now I do want to add a little bit of a shine to that, so I am going to clean off my stamp and I'm going to come back with my embossing ink pad, and this is the Versamark one. I'm going to load it onto my stamp and stamp it on top one more time. Then I'm going to bring in my clear sparkle embossing powder by Wow, and I'm going to hit set that. And see how lovely, properly centered that stamping is in the middle of my die cut. And this is how I get my sentiments perfectly centered on thin die cuts like this every single time. I know some people are very happy to do this with stamping blocks and all. I do go crackhead all the time with those. So this is the trick that helps me out all the time. Now it's heat set, and look how lovely, perfectly centered that sentiment is. Just as if I never ever struggled with this before. So I've die cut the outline 5 more times, just of plain white heavyweight cardstock. And using my liquid glue, I'm going to layer them on top of each other. Now, if you want to use foam pads to add some dimension behind your sentiment, you can do that. You might have some foam sheets that you can cut these out of to add the dimension. You can also do that. I don't have any foams, so I decided to cut them from cardstock. Having to add little bits and foam pads in there, I don't think it would have looked as nice and tidy. This will later act as a stopper for my base, but first I'm going to do my decorations. So the stamp and dies that I'm using is the Candy Cane stamp and dies from Chloe's Creative Cards, again last year's collection. I stamped with black, heat embossed with clear sparkle, and colored in with alcohol markers a couple of candy canes, and then some of the holly and berries foliage from the same stamp and die set as well. I cut those out several times, and then I created a bow as well, stamped and heat embossed the same way, and then I added glitter to it. So I took my dry clear glue, went all around the bow with it, and then I tipped Nuvo Pure Sheen Ruby Red glitter on it. I've had this bottle in my stash for such a long time, and I keep forgetting about this. So I thought it was time to bring it out again. It's almost still nearly full, and that's a lovely dark Christmassy red color. So to arrange these on top of my card, I really took the inspiration from the packaging of the stamp and die set itself, but I wanted to add some of that foliage as well. So I will be using the same kind of a setup as on the packaging, and then I'm going to add all the foliage all around behind the candy canes in there. So some of them will be glued to the candy canes and some of them onto the backing paper there, just like you see in here. And for the berries, I decided to add some crystalline glitter. Now, they look white in here because the glue has to dry, and it will dry clear, and the berries will turn nice and red again. I covered the back of that candy cane set that I glued together in a double-sided foam pads to add some dimension. So some of the foliage is glued to the backing paper, so they are kind of on 2 levels in there. And then I'm just adding back some glitter onto the berries that I managed to touch with my fingers. And then it is just time to glue the bow on. Now, the little sparkler on the bow is also from Chloe's Creative Cards, and this is one of the smaller sizes of the sparklers. And it's such a beautiful silvery embellishment. Now I'm going to add glue to the back of what I created as my stopper, which is the sentiment itself. And I took the other card in here just to make sure I'm adding them the same place, because I knew that that one worked absolutely fine. And this is the card ready. Just how gorgeous is this? So this is how you create that roof overhanging kind of look on diamond shape reversed easel cards. How lovely are these two? I genuinely could not decide. If I was made to choose which one to receive, I would not be able to decide. They are slightly different, both absolutely gorgeous. What do you all think? Do let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to read your thoughts on these. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet done so. Make sure you ring the notification bell so you will get notified of my upcoming videos, where I can tell you that there are some really exciting collaborations and announcements coming your way very soon, with some Christmas makes and other makes as well. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye!